have got a lot in common.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We
Yeah, we
have a
do.
lot in common. It's very fun. And I had to ask you, where in the world is Maurice today?
I'm in Maryland today.
Excellent. Okay. Did you take your
People ask me
kids
like,
to school?
I did. I walked my
Nice.
little. No, today I didn't actually. My oldest son is in town, and he drove his little brother to school, dropped him off, and then kept going to the gym. So
Excellent.
I got a morning. So then I actually took the dog for a walk today instead.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
how do you do the dog with the transatlantic thing?
Very, very good. So the dog, so me and my son's mom, we co-parent really,
Uh-huh.
really, really well.
Yep.
So the dog goes wherever our son is. So if
Love
he's
it.
with me, then Nala comes to my house. If he's with his mom, then Nala goes to her house. So
It's a perfect plan.
it does. And you know what? Like the nuclear family that has always existed in our society and what have you, we can have these wonderfully integrated families now where people care about each other and love each other and back each other up. And I am in that situation. So it works. It works.
You choose everything. I agree with you completely. When my ex-husband and I were divorcing, I said we get to architect this however we want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we can either destroy a 25-year relationship that with two beautiful kids and many businesses,
Yeah.
or we can decide that we love each other enough to
Yeah.
let each other
Yeah.
go into this next phase. And I'll tell you what, our divorce attorney, we used the same one, said, you guys should write a book.
It's well, and I know that's we're talking about it in rosy context and stuff, but that's a lot of hard work. But
Oh, it's
you
hard
can
work.
it's a ton of work.
You bet.
I so respect it. I know what's on the backside of separating from someone that you care about for so long and getting to this
Yeah.
space. And anyways, I digress, but it's really good to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. Thanks so
Yeah,
much for the flexibility and all the things. I
it's all
appreciate
good.
it.
It's all good. I have to tell you, we're recording already, so I'm very conversational in my stuff, so don't
Good.
sweat it. I listened to you the other day on my friend Erin Coop's
Ah, yes.
podcast. She's a beast. She's a
Isn't
beast.
she great?
She's awesome.
I'm
She's
so excited about her new book.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And it's her corporate story aligned incredibly well with what you're doing nowadays.
Mhm.
So let me do this. I want to intro you to my readers. And because I
Sure.
did a lot of work on it, I actually want to read this introduction. It's really important because
Okay,
they're
thank
going to
you.
draw why I think it's so valuable for you to talk to the Tri-Lifelong community, which it is. So one of the hardest things for any of us to do that we'll ever do is walk away from something that's working. I definitely have. A career that looks successful on paper, a business you built from nothing. I'm experiencing that now myself. A title you fought for, a version of yourself the world applauds. But there does come a point, if you're listening closely, when something deeper starts to whisper, and I know you had a whisper, it says this chapter is complete. And in that moment, the bravest thing you can do and the hardest isn't to double down, it's to let go. And I know that path well. I've walked away from corporate life. I've walked away from the military. I've walked away from police work. And now, even a company that I founded. And I wasn't good at it at first. In some cases, I stayed too long in the rooms where I'd outgrown, but each time the leap taught me that leaving isn't failure, it is pure evolution. So, my guest today, the amazing Amy Lessinger, who's sitting across from me right now, built one of the largest and most successful brokerages in the world as a CEO of Remax. By every external measure, and we'll talk about that for sure, she had it all. And yet, she heard a whisper, and eventually she listened. She walked away from the pinnacle of her career, your career, to follow something truer. Today, you're helping other high achievers do the same through a framework called the Irreversible Step, which is what I want people to hear about, guiding people through that defining moment when you stop repeating what's known and step into what's next. And we're going to talk about how to recognize the whisper before it becomes a scream, how to know when it's time to go, what happens on the other side of the leap, and how evolution asks us to rewrite who we are. So if you have ever felt that tug, that's why, Amy, I wanted you to come talk to folks about your journey and what it is that you do.
Thanks, Maurice. I can't tell you how excited I am for this conversation because we have
Yeah.
so much in common. We are both architects of freedom.
Yeah.
You teach people how to live it. I teach people how to decide for it.
Oh, I didn't even think about it in that context. I like that. So talk about that. Well, actually, I just want to recognize your work at Remax and what you used to do, and the fact that you helped grow that organization and lead it at a time when real estate was very, very difficult to deal with. But you were on your version of a mountaintop. By all accounts,
Sure.
society's versions of success, you had it. So you're not there anymore. So just talk about your own evolution from climbing that mountain and recognizing that it was time to step off.
We share similarities in our story, Maurice, in terms of, this is not the first irreversible step I've taken.
Yeah.
When I was building my near $1 billion brokerage during the Great Recession,
Mm,
I knew for a while that it was like probably 3 years, honestly, that it was time for me to go on and climb another mountain. And I hesitated and I resisted and I tried to make it work because by all accounts,
mm,
I was totally succeeding on the outside, but on the inside, I was restless, I was unfulfilled. And I think what I want people to understand is that's completely normal.
yep.
That is your inner self saying, time to grow again. I know maybe you don't want to, but guess what? There's more for you. And so, I finally decided to trust it. And I made the leap and I sold the company without knowing what I was going to do next. And I think that's a really pivotal moment for me. And it's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that we don't become from deciding. We
Hmm.
become by going through it. And
Hmm.
so I made the decision. I took the irreversible step because by the time I signed the contract, there was no going back. I wasn't unselling the company. And so, that's what opened up the door for me to go to Remax headquarters, which was not a part of what I had visualized for my future,
Mm.
and begin, my role in the corporate world. And it was a phenomenal ride. It was amazing. And, that's what led to the Remax presidency.
Wow.
And so I learned a tremendous amount on that journey. And once again, I was at the top of the mountain and I said, it's time for me to go climb something new. It's
Yeah.
time for me to return back to my purpose and back to who I've always been, which is I have always been a builder of people,
Wow.
helping them reach their potential that they never thought they could. And one of the things that I see as I progress in my career is the more successful we become, the more hesitant we are to change our life. There's so
Yes,
much more at stake. And you see this with your audience all the time, Maurice.
I
And
do.
there's so much more at stake. And so we get stuck, very stuck.
We do. We do. But let's go. I don't want to gloss over something. So you
Sure.
built a brokerage and then you ended up on the corporate side. So you heard something twice is what I just heard from you is once there was a leap from what you built into, okay, I need to go be a different kind of leader at
Mhm.
this moment. Because it's okay we can leap within our firms too. I was at the same
Sure.
company for 25 years and made conscious decisions of what I was going to do and not going to do. Like I purposefully chose to turn down the path to partner for
Mhm.
reasons. But there was
Sure.
a whisper that told you to make that shift. And then there was a whisper that told you, okay, my time here is complete. It's time for me to move on and do something else. What does, for folks who are listening and may have that restlessness now that you talked about, what does that whisper sound like? Or is it just the restlessness or was it something else for you as well?
That whisper, it can manifest in a variety of different ways for different people.
Yep.
But for me, it was restlessness. It was, what's keeping you awake at 3 a.m., knowing that you're like, I need this to change. I want this to change, but that change
Hmm.
is scary for me. And so we tend to stuff it down. And so it could look like I've seen this many times. I'm in the corporate world, but what I really want to do is I want to be a world-class chef.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like a
Exactly.
really huge jump for people, and they say, oh my gosh, how do I possibly bridge that divide? And I
Hmm.
think that's another thing is that people think that they're starting over. You're not. You get to take everything that you have ever learned with you and grow into your next self. And so that whisper, when you stuff it down, like I did
Yeah.
before I sold my brokerage, turned into avoidance. It turned
Hmm.
into I would call it kind of running away. I would say yes to every single business trip I could get my hands on just to avoid kind of going into the office. I would say yes to every single horseback riding trip that I could find just so that I could go out there and feel alive because I felt so,
Yeah.
just stuffed inside. I just was
Yeah.
like, ugh.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
And so it's avoidance, it's stuffing it down, it's belief that in order to have the life that you want, you have to, have less than you have now, which
Yeah.
I don't believe that's true at all. So
Yeah.
that whisper, if you don't listen to it, it does eventually start to manifest itself in other ways. For some people, they drink too much.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
some people, they eat too much.
Yeah.
It is, but I believe that we have this knowing, and if we can just get quiet enough for a second to listen to it, it's
Yeah.
like, what do you really want? And only once I sold the brokerage could I say, I really want more people to help. I want more people to serve. I want a bigger stage, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, I was on one of the biggest stages you could possibly be on with 140,000 agents across 110 countries. It was a huge stage.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yes.
And I want to ask you a follow-up question, which is, how do you know that that whisper is the actual calling versus just a passing thought? Because people have that, right? They wake up in the morning like, I don't really want to get on the train and eat Subway sandwich for lunch today. But the next day they feel okay about it. It may not be the calling feeling. It might just be something that's muted. But how do you know that it's the actual calling versus a passing thought?
I think it's pervasive.
It's pervasive,
If
sticks
you're,
with you.
yeah, if you're going into the office every single day with just this,
Yeah.
I don't feel good about this. I don't feel good about what I'm doing. I don't feel fulfilled. That's what I see in most people is they do it anyway out of obligation, out of responsibility. And I am not here to tell anybody, oh, just throw caution to the wind and be totally irresponsible. That's most high achievers, they won't step if that is the idea. Unfortunately, though, if you don't listen to the whisper and you don't listen then to the voice that's now speaking, not whispering, it is going to yell eventually.
It
And
will.
this is when you see people free fall. They
Yep.
are in so
Yep.
much pain that
Yep.
they can't get out of it.
Yep.
And so they make a rash decision, and that's when they tend to burn it all down.
Yeah, they're making that decision from probably one of the worst vibrational points in their life, or from
Correct.
fear, and we know where those decisions lead to. Before we talk about, I'm going to transition from hearing the whisper to the cost of staying too long. I heard you talk about it, but before we get there, a good transition question is: you said the more successful you become, the more complicated life gets. Can you touch on that a bit and because I've had that experience as well, and I'll follow up just to help you out with that point. But I mean, you're right. You were at the top of one of the most successful firms in the world, looking at 140,000 people. So things had to be a bit complicated.
Absolutely. And, I think that's the biggest thing is that our lives are more complicated. And so what does that look like? It looks like I have children that I'm responsible for financially, emotionally, physically. I have this wonderful house that I live in. I drive a very nice car. Some of these things are external. And our society teaches us that, number one, we are what we do. So we're defined by our title. We're defined by our roles. We're defined by the car we drive, the house we have, et cetera. And I, just really have never defined myself in that way.
Yeah.
For me, I would rather go out and, ride my horse and be a part of nature. And if it meant that I live in a different house and drove a different car, I'm cool with that because freedom is my number one value.
Yeah.
And so, I think that that's the important part is that people, you are not what you do.
No.
You are not what you do. And I think that isn't stressed enough.
Yeah.
There's too much social pressure outside. And so that's why when we decide we want something different with our life, we tend to want to, collapse everything that we have because we think, oh my gosh, I'll never be this successful again.
Yeah. So did you get the, we're not what we do
Mhm.
in any sense of the word. And just like you, I have, if anyone would look at my professional career, my traditional professional career, they would probably say, "Oh, no, he's a relatively successful person with all this stuff." And I can tell people after having culminated 4 careers, none of it is me. I
Right.
can't even associate with it anymore. I do think there is a cost of staying too long. I want to give an example and then ask you to chime in on it, which is I stayed in the military for 22 years. I got to the rank of lieutenant colonel, and by then, I was still in the field directing my special agents to go do what they did. But if you're going to take full colonel, if you're going to go after that title,
Mhm.
then you got to go back to headquarters, which is appropriate because they want you to take policy from the field, go to headquarters, write policy. Excuse me, they want you to take what you've done in the field, go to headquarters, write policy, and affect the entire agency. But I was a field guy. I didn't know how to do that. So I thought that there would be a cost of staying too long in the military itself. But what is the cost of staying too long, especially with the people that you work with nowadays? Are they being affected by this difficult transition of trying to leave, per se?
I think the cost of staying too long in anything, where it might be a career, it could be your a relationship that needs a reset. It could be your health. You've stayed in a place of unhealthiness for too long. Anytime you stay for too long, there is a major cost. And so I'll tell
Hmm.
you a story of my cost, and
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
in the brokerage. I said I needed to sell it for 3 years, and I
Hmm.
held on and I held on. And you know why, Maurice? Because I didn't know who I was without it.
Yeah.
It was my identity. I had the awards and the accolades and everything else. My husband at the time, he begged me to sell it. He
Oh,
knew
he felt it. He
oh,
could
he
feel it
saw
in
it,
you. He knew it.
and
Yeah.
so do your loved ones. For our listeners, they know. They
Yeah.
know when you're in a place of unhappiness and you're in a place of needing to grow. And I contend that they want you to.
Hmm.
So he begged me to sell it. I couldn't do it at that time. Just I wasn't emotionally, physically ready.
Hmm.
And I believe that part of the reason why our marriage, ultimately ended was because of that. I think when you are in that space, I would show up at home and I think that my family got the crumbs
They
sometimes
got the crumbs of your energy at the end of the day.
because I gave everything to everybody else and I would come home so exhausted
Yeah.
and so tired and depleted that I didn't have anything left for them.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. And so when people wonder about the cost of hesitation, it manifests itself over time and it snowballs,
Mm.
either in terms of your health, your happiness, your effect on others, your relationships with others. So that's really the cause of, or the effect of hesitating for too long.
Yeah. But real world stuff, your family, your friends, your colleagues, the notion of you giving up what you have the notion of you giving up what you had created, did it affect your psyche? Did you feel less than? Did you feel status quo in society trying to pull you back in and wake you up that that was great? I think that people struggle with what everybody else thinks as opposed to what they think.
I agree. And one big thing for
Yeah.
me when I experienced that was certainly when I left Remax.
Yeah.
I left because I knew that it was time for me to explore something new and build again. And
Mm.
so for me, I knew, and of course given my history, I didn't linger, I didn't wait, I didn't, I said, this one, it's time for you to take your
Time.
step. However, I will say this, you know I went from Mach 10 to zero in terms of
Yeah.
what I was
Yeah.
managing. And so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
silence is pretty deafening at
Yes.
the start. You
Yeah.
sort of, I went from being scheduled every 15 minutes, working 7 days a week, on an airplane every other day, speaking every other day, to quiet.
Yeah.
And you
And it's
open
not
up your,
easy. It's
I
not
know, and you
easy.
open up your
Yeah.
email and you're like, awesome. I have 3 emails. One is from Nordstrom. One is my energy bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You go, oh my
Yep.
God, what is happening? So I will tell you that was a struggle for me in the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then once I leaned into it, I
Hmm.
returned back to who I've always been in terms of I rode my horse a little bit longer.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
returned to meditating.
You had that
I did
space.
yoga. I got
Yeah.
back to the gym. I started eating the way that I wanted to eat,
Yeah.
which is healthy. And so you return back to what you know, but so often when you're in that kind of environment,
Mm.
you don't support it. I mean, it just
Yeah.
is.
We're so busy with all the noise that society throws at you, the social media platforms, the school calling you about the kids, the neighbors asking you about the grass being overgrown, the I need to look a certain way, so let me go out and get these clothes and da 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 da. It never
Mhm.
ends, and we're so busy. I call it human divinity, not in the religious sense, but in who we are.
Right.
When you said returning back, I think I have returned back to, in my own experience, what I used to be as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying life in a way. And you can get there in other ways, but I just
Sure.
want to call out for folks. It's hard for folks to create the space. It's hard for folks to recognize that there's so much information in their minds that they can't get to the place where they have peace and quiet and the ability to truly enjoy yoga or truly enjoy the walk like I did this morning with my dog or what have
Yeah.
you. And I think that's where you help people. So, what is taking the irreversible step and how are you helping people do it?
The reason why I created this was
Yeah.
because, like you, I've seen way too many people walking around in their life as a passenger. And I'm not
Yeah.
judging, I've been there. This is why I built it. And I literally believe that life is by design. And if
Hmm.
you don't design
I
your
love
own
that.
life, and I know you believe this too, Maurice, if you don't design
Hmm.
your own life, it's going to just default to whatever it
Sure.
is. And I am a firm believer that people can have whatever kind of life they want.
Yeah.
They just have to choose it. But as we talked about earlier, choosing it is the hardest part. And so
Yep.
this is when I looked back on my life and how many times I've taken an irreversible step. I felt like people need a framework. They need to
Mm.
understand, how do I get from this place where I feel this way to where I want to go? Or I don't even know where the hell I want to go. I just know this doesn't work.
Something doesn't feel right. Yeah.
So it's a 5-step framework, and
Okay.
it starts with truth. It
Okay.
starts with, the first step is what's true for you. Who do you want to be? What kind of life do you want to have? And then the second step is what's possible, because the moment we start telling ourselves the
Mm.
truth, our brain is going to kick in and it's going to
Yep.
say, you can't do that. There's so many reasons why you shouldn't do that. That's scary. No, danger, danger.
Yep.
And so the second step is explore what's possible, because that shifts your brain into a totally different space where you can
Okay.
dream and you can start to see. You don't have to decide how. You just have to look at it. What's possible for you?
Yep.
And then from there, you pick a path.
Mm.
What what's our general direction? Not the whole direction, but do you need to make a career change? Are you going to prioritize your health? Are you in a relationship that needs a reset?
Hmm.
It could be a
Hmm.
partnership. It could be, your life partner. Whatever it is.
Yeah, because
But
this doesn't just apply to work. This applies
it
to
doesn't.
any situation in your life.
It does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and many irreversible steps have different categories that are
Hmm.
associated with them.
Hmm.
And then from there, so once you've said, okay, yes, I am going to dip my toe
Hmm.
in
Picking a
the
path.
water of, I think I might want to make a career change, a full career change. Okay, great. Now we have a path. Now we
Hmm.
sort of understand what direction are we going. And from there, we build a bridge. What does it look like? Not the
Build a
entire
bridge.
bridge, because as high achievers, we want the 10-year plan, we want all the steps, we want all the things. The bridge is this: it is strong enough for you to believe in it and step on it. And that's it. It's not
Say that
the
again.
entire
Say that
thing.
again. It's strong enough.
It's strong enough for you to believe in it and step on it so
Oh,
that you can move forward, because the only way is forward. It's the
Wow.
only way that you
Yeah.
can actually manifest and architect change is deciding and taking a step forward. And that's what the bridge is about. It's like, it's
Yeah.
not, you're not crossing the Grand Canyon. You're crossing a creek at the bottom of the canyon. And now we're going
Yeah,
to
I
walk
like the
up.
fact that you say that because people think it's this massive thing that you have to go through, and it's really not.
No. And I think, Maurice, you know this. The
Yeah.
second you decide and you start to take action toward it, I mean, whatever you believe, God, the universe, so many things just line up and it
Absolutely.
becomes actually easy.
It does.
Things just line up. You don't need the perfect plan. It just has to be strong enough for you to believe it and to step on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you decide and you take your irreversible step. Every single irreversible step that I've ever taken, or any that I know of people who've taken,
Yep.
it starts with making a decision and taking action. And then you become somebody else and you shut the door and you never look back. That's why it's
Yeah.
irreversible. Doesn't mean you can't go back. It means you don't want to, because this new version of yourself, you love this person.
Yep.
You're excited about who you are now. And so that's what an irreversible step is. It is signing the contract to sell the business.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
that action.
it is sending the resignation letter because you're committed. It is signing the lease for the restaurant that you want to open. It is, hiring a personal trainer and making it non-refundable.
Yep.
Where it's like there's
Yep.
pain if you don't follow through. So those are some examples of irreversible steps, because that's what actually changes you. I'm architecting transformation. I want them to meet the next version of themselves, not who they are now. Because
I love it.
who they are now is in pain, doesn't like where they are, and they want to progress.
Yeah. And I heard you and Aaron talking on the following point, which is clarity will come from action. You don't get clarity and execute, you execute, and then the clarity will come. I have to echo that in all of my four exits. And by the way, my exits, my evolvement, I should say,
Yeah.
just for folks listening and for you as well. Corporate was 25 years for me. Military was 22. Police was 15.
You're too
And now
young for that, Maurice.
I'm still doing it. And now my private equity firm is 7, although it'll take a few years to finish everything. Hi, sweetheart. My dog just walked up.
Nice. Mine's
But
right here.
those transitions, they're challenging. They're very, very difficult. But
Yeah.
I never had clarity until I actually went through all of it. And now, interestingly enough, you're helping people as a coach and someone who's
Strategist.
been a strategist and
Yeah.
someone who's been down the road. You're supporting people's process. In my process, it was trial and error and just having
Correct.
faith and belief. But there is something to having somebody by your side to make these very large mentally, irreversible steps. I just want you to touch on that real quick. Just the power of having someone next to you who has already done it or can be there for you so they have some accountability lever.
Absolutely. And I think the people that I work with, that is the biggest thing, is they, for the first time, number one, they've given themselves permission to actually say it out loud. That's
Yeah.
really hard for a lot of people, depending on what it is. And so to be able to hold space for people in that regard,
Mm.
and really it's not fluff. I
Yep.
am a true believer. I have seen it over and over again. I've experienced it myself. You
Yeah.
can change. You can absolutely architect any life that you want. And so I consider it really an honor and a privilege to be able to walk alongside people and give them the tools and the framework. That's where I'm a little bit different than, a coach. I've developed
There is a
through
difference.
neuroscience, psychology, the frameworks that help people take control of their brain, because otherwise fear leads. If you don't take control, fear is gonna keep you right where you are. And so how do we get your brain into a different space? And so to be able to do that with people and give them the framework that I needed
Yeah.
when, maybe I wouldn't have held on for all those 3 years if I had some sort of a framework that would have shown
Yes.
me the way.
Yes, they give us all frameworks in school and formal education to keep climbing up and up and to keep building other people's
Right.
versions of success. And there's nothing wrong with working in corporate. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Sure.
But there are other frameworks for or of how you can live, and the fact that you developed one is awesome. All right, so just in a closing thought, just as we wrap up, I have a little visualization for you.
Okay.
All right. So instead of being on that stage and having 140,000 amazing professionals in front of you, okay, I want you to imagine that you're on that stage and you just have just one person. And if you could whisper one sentence into the ear of that person who knows deep down that they're meant to evolve, but they just haven't taken the step, it's just you and them, what would you say?
What are you no longer willing to tolerate?
Boom.
What are you no longer willing to tolerate? That one surfaces all of it. And the other thing that I would say is, okay, now what? Because once we say it out loud, we
Yeah.
have to be able to see what's next. And
That's it.
so, and even if it's, I don't know, okay, that's fine. Let's sit with that for a minute. You don't know. What lights you up? What makes you happy? Where do you feel that you can impact people? What's a gift that you have that nobody else has? So like that's, how I would just be with one person
Yeah.
and help them through.
I love it. And we need that. And I can tell you're asking all, it feels to me, just my gut instinct tells me that you ask all the right questions, because it's not about answers. It's about asking the right questions to get
Oh,
people where they need to be and
absolutely.
to give people a platform where they feel safe to speak up and to speak
Sure.
out loud and to try life on, as I say.
Yes.
That's awesome. So Amy, where can people go learn more about your work and the Irreversible Step itself?
They can go to my website, amylessinger.com, or they can go to the irreversiblestep.com. They'll find me there. I'm on all the social handles. So
Yeah.
I love the interaction. And you're right, Maurice. I really don't care how big of a stage. I'm here to impact people. That's what I want my legacy to be.
Yeah, and I can feel it, and I love hearing about your story. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You're going to help a ton of people, and I so appreciate that you did.
Thanks, Maurice. I
All
appreciate
right,
you too.
my pleasure. Hey guys, this is Maurice, host of the Try Life On podcast, and thank you for listening to another episode. I hope you are finding it useful in helping you design your own lifestyle that you don't need a vacation from. If that's the case, please consider dropping a review for me, whether in Apple, iTunes, or in Spotify. Drop a review, put some stars on it. Give me some feedback on how I can make the podcast better, what information you are looking for. I am doing my best to get information to you on the Try Life On principles, the 5 freedoms, how to build lifestyle, travel hacking, all of it. And I want to do it for you. So please do a review for me. And until next time, my name is Maurice Philogene, and this is the Try Life On podcast. Peace.